Hello, 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 everyone. We are live, or as a wise man once said, we be live. How's everyone doing? I will look at the chat. Okay, I see. So starting fresh is already starting fresh, giving us a bunch of stuff to talk about, a bunch of questions. Okay, so here's what we're gonna talk about today. At least there might be other topics, depending on how far we get. So the last few days, the Israeli parliament has had a blitz of legislation that might hamper Netanyahu's chances of remaining prime minister. There's very interesting backlash to these laws. We'll talk about that. Then the main opposition figure, the highest person, the person with the highest likelihood of replacing Netanyahu if he's not able to form a government, um, is potentially in deep water. He made a controversial statement. We will talk about that. And also implications for either person being in charge for the future of Israel geopolitically, how it relates to Iran, and so on. Next, we have American politics. These have not been a good couple of days um, for American politicians talking about Israel. Let's put it that way. We're going to talk about the Democrats, Ro Khanna and Rami Manuel, um, and what they recently said about Israel. As well as on the Republican side, we've had a couple of not so great statements coming from um, obscure political figures by the names of J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. We will discuss all of these as well, and then time willing, we'll see how much time we have left, but we can discuss other developments in the region, Lebanon, Gaza, Houthis, and Saudi Arabia, and the war with Iran. Okay, so before we begin, I'll say hello to a couple of people because we don't have a lot of viewers right now. So I'll give it a couple minutes. So yeah, okay. Guess we can start. Why? What's wrong, Professor Duck? What happened with BB? Oh, okay, okay. So we're gonna get to that in a minute. Let's see. All right. So yeah, and this also relates. So potentially the issues that I mentioned with Netanyahu also relate to, or sorry, with the American politicians also relate to potentially Netanyahu postponing his trip to the U.S. So we'll talk about all of that. Okay, so we have 50 people watching. More will presumably join soon. So I guess we can begin. In worst case scenario, people joining in would be able to go back and make up what they missed. Who's that guy, Roman Viking? I assume this is a joke because I'm pretty sure you know me. We have been in contact, I believe. Okay, good. Tis early, Koala Katie. Yes, I mean my show is genuinely. I mean it's earlier than most. So that global fans would also have a chance to have something at a reasonable time. Marigold is asking random question. What do you think about the clavicular situation? I haven't really been following it. It's a Gen Alpha thing, and like I hope Gen Alpha finds better role models. Is all I'm gonna say. Like it's these people are, the y'all need Jesus thing. So these people need Jesus. I'm Jewish. But I strongly believe that America should be more religious with better role models as well. And these people cannot be the role models for the upcoming generation. At the same time, the upcoming generation has been, especially the men, have been pushed aside and told they're wrong and they don't have a right to exist. And I can sympathize with people in this kind of situation looking for alternatives and finding things that are dark, um, because you know they don't have an outlet and they've never been shown positive male role models. That's a huge problem with America right now, and I actually think that in Israel they might be able to have some of those role models, but unfortunately, uh, enemies of America have made sure to vilify Israel, um, to weaken America. Uh, okay. And then Roman Viking, didn't Bibi also disobey a court verdict recently? So what happened was, do you want to get into this? So it wasn't Netanyahu, it was his minister of communications in charge of media and stuff, like media channels. And what happened there is that the court basically didn't obey the law. They put out um a verdict that didn't obey the law. And the verdict, I'll really give a brief idea of what happened there. So there's been an attempt to purchase the a certain news channel in Israel, the left wing, the equivalent of MSNBC, channel 13. I don't have the graph open that I showed last time that had the different channels, but the channel is underwater. Um, and as a result, someone had to buy it, like an activist. Um, wanted to buy it to keep it afloat. And there were different people vying for it. One person was probably going to change it to be less left wing. Think of it as like a David Ellison CBS situation, where you have someone coming in buying the channel and then trying to broaden its appeal. That was one option. And then an activist, who's also like a high tech millionaire, swept in, made a counter offer. Eventually, they went with him. And allegedly there might be something wrong, like logistically with that. And there's a committee in charge of ensuring whether these things are okay or not. And that committee, there were problems with it. I won't get into why, but it only has 7 members. Now the law says that you and it's the committee made by the previous government, so it would be more in favor of the move. The previous government was the opposition government. The law says that a decorum of this group must be at least 10 people. And even though the law says this, the Supreme Court says, no, we're going to allow the committee with 7 members because there were 15. The new government assigned its own committee. The Supreme Court ruled against it and assigned the previous committee. And then 8 members from the committee quit because they weren't like they agreed it was a bad thing to do, and so you're left with 7. You need 10 people to in a decorum to make this kind of decision. The Supreme Court said even though we only have 7, we still nevertheless would like them to make the decision, which is against the what the law states. And so the communications ministry said we're not going to obey by this because this clearly goes against the law. The Supreme Court said it, but it very clearly goes against the law. So that's the court verdict, and it was a mountain made out of a molehill. The clavicular situation is annoying, and Israelis need to spend less time on it. I agree. Y'all need Moses. No, I specifically said Jesus. I don't think Americans need Moses. They need to be friendly with Moses, because Moses is one of the bedrocks of your culture. But specifically, you guys need Jesus. So thought on Corey Gil Schuster, the Ask Project guy. Can you say a bit more about that? I probably know what it is, but I don't recognize the name. So if you say what it is, Roman Viking, I'll be able to help. Um, Okay, I mean, there's a troll in the chat. Okay, so Soraya was asking, did you call it a state TV channel? I didn't mean it that way. There is a state TV akin to like BBC. It's called Kan, but this is not. This is a private. This is a private channel. No, they need the 7 Noahide laws. Yeah, I agree, but I would consider um, Christianity to um, most Christian denominations to abide by the 7 Noahide laws. Okay, it's a good question. Siddhartha is asking, are apolitical institutions with real authority and broad legitimacy across the political spectrum even possible today? I assume you're asking this not necessarily about Israel. Just in general with how polarized media is and how people find their own echo chambers. Um the this I mean I think we'll have to find it's we're in a crisis right now in terms of broad broad legitimacy. Um and that's something we'll have to figure out. And I don't know how to do that, but that should be like a project for Western governments. If we want to maintain our democracy, we need to deal with the level of polarization that is inherent in the. So right now we have amplification channels, and so if you have a divergence of opinions broadly put into camps, then you'll have each opinion amplify away from each other, and so you'll have like islands of incompatible points of view fundamentally. And the 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 solution is either to break the country into several countries, although it's often not based on geography, or to find a way to find this legitimacy, because I don't think long term countries can survive in this atmosphere. So Roman Viking saying he's a YouTuber, Canadian, goes to Israeli streets in West Bank and Gaza to ask questions about the conflict and publishes interviews on YouTube. Okay, so I don't know him. So Roman Viking, Supreme Court judges in Germany require 2/3 majority in parliament, for example. This way you can make broad legitimacy easier. So there are a bunch of um, so this is about the appointment of judges in Israel. It's probably not going to work this way. And also, the current opposition would go against it, and the current government would also go against it, presumably. I think it's a good solution, having like broad enough of an acceptance. But then, like, the people against the current government will say, well, that still, in principle, that legitimizes things that we think should not be legitimate in society if the majority becomes large enough. They're fundamentally against that. If it goes against the spirit of democracy as they see it. Okay. So, judges in Israel need a counterbalance. I agree. Okay. So we have like 100 people. So I think it's now we can start going into things. Okay. So over the last few days, there's been a legislative blitz in Israel where the government has tried to finalize laws that it wanted to put in the books ever since the government started. And first, because of the judicial reform issues, um, and then because of the war since October 7th, they weren't really able to do it. So they're doing it now, like at the last minute, because the parliament is essentially dissolving now, like this week. Oh, that's another good topic. Okay, so Shauna's asking, can you talk about the segregation in Israeli politics in Israeli universities? I can. I'm gonna star this comment, so I'll be able to go back to it later. So this legislation involved a bunch of stuff like the splitting apart of the attorney general role, which is both the defense and the prosecution against the government, and it's just too strong of a role, so they wanted to break it apart and also take some of its authorities away, like the authority to not to go against the government when the government is trying to make a decision, and a bunch of stuff like that. And so those are like rules that they needed to pass, and in order to pass them, they need a majority. The issue is that the ultra orthodox parties have basically so what I'm looking for to blackmail. They extorted the government that if you want us to vote on these laws, you're going to have to give us something. And there are two things that they got. Because right now there's a fight in Israel about enlisting ultra orthodox into, like, drafting them into the army. And they have had, when they were a very small minority in Israel, they've had an exemption to study Torah, and was like fine, it was a few hundred people. However, they procreate exponentially. So like each family has like 6, 7, 8 kids. And as a result, now they're like 20% of the population in Israel. And this is not sustainable. Now you have tens of thousands of kids every year that are of a specific sect in Israeli society that are just completely exempt from serving their country in a civil manner because they study Torah. And there have been different forms of legislation attempted to try to bridge that gap. There are several problems with it. So there's one that was like presumably a compromise, but many people argue that it was too lenient for them. And so my girl is asking, early elections? No, the elections are going to be in their due time, which is the 27th of October. And this is the first election in actually like several decades. This is the first government that has will have completed its 4-year term. Okay. So they made these laws. So they wanted to do the draft law, and the Supreme Court kept putting it back because it's not equitable enough. And so they wanted 2 laws now. One is a basic law. Basic law, as we said previously, is basically like an article in the future constitution. Now they can be changed and so on, and they don't need any specific majority, but it's basically like put in the future constitution. So that's something that the Supreme Court has to take into account. Torah study as a fundamentally important aspect of Jewish life in Israel. The point of this law, it's declarative right now, but the point of it is that eventually, when they do put out a draft that has some exemptions for people studying Torah, the Supreme Court will have to take that into account as, okay, well, that's a legitimate goal by the country. And this one is like fine. It's declarative. People aren't really happy with it, but it's okay. This would not have caused the uproar that has happened because of this legislation being signed and because of Netanyahu explicitly supporting it. The problem was the second law, which is that right now, because there is no framework for the ultra-Orthodox, essentially what should happen is that the army should start arresting people who refuse to go to the draft. And the second law, for the duration of the election, prevents the authorities from arresting or prosecuting eligible students who have ignored military draft orders. So they're still legally required to serve, technically, but it's not going to be enforced. And this, and after 3 years of never-ending war, where many people have done multiple hundreds of days of service in reserve duty, largely because of a lack of manpower. So they had to work people to the bone, myself included. So I wasn't in combat role, but I did a lot of reserve duty service over the last since October 7th. And so this thing made a crack that was actually bigger than I expected. A bunch of Likud members have left. They're now starting a new party called Israel First, which very much takes a lot out of like American politics. It's like trying to be the moderate Republican Party, sort of, that is for drafting people, like for trying to form a government without the ultra orthodox being able to extort everyone. Still right wing. You have a bunch of prominent Likud members who have joined, who are probably going to join this party. And now it's probably what it's going to do practically, because if you have a government without the ultra orthodox, then you have to have at least some center and center left parties. So practically speaking, okay, let's actually show this. Remember that this was not unexpected, but if you remember last time, I showed you this this graph of the parties and a recent poll. There have been other polls yesterday or in the last few days afterwards, and for some of them, Eisenkot is able to form a government. Like, he has 61 seats without the Arabs. But I don't trust that one, because one of those is 4 seats that are dangling. So 4 is the minimum you can have in parliament. Although I think it should be lowered, but that's a different story. One of those parties is dangling on the edge here, and basically it's a unity government party. Basically saying this aspect of it is saying we're going to aim for a unity government, but if neither side has a majority, but with us, Eisenkot will have a majority, we will complete the government for him. We will sit with him to allow the creation of a government. However, they are at risk, and they're not going to stay at 4 seats once the other. So there's going to be like basically 3 parties running for on the unity ticket. One is leaning left, meaning they will allow Netanyahu Eisenkot to form a government if with them, if they have time, but they're more like centrist. They're more leaning right. The other leans right of center, so it might do it for Netanyahu. Probably not. We'll see how it shakes out. And then you have the actual center, which is Gantz and Dedi Simchi, which are basically saying, no, we're going to force a unity government no matter what. We're not going to join either side unless that side makes a serious commitment and the other side doesn't agree. So Mozi is asking, you need what, 61 seats? Yes, you need. So we have 120 members of parliament, and we need 61 seats. Oh, I need to take down this. We'll read super chats soon because it's hiding some of the. Okay, 1 second. Okay, there you go. Now you can see better, hopefully. Oh, that's good to know. So apparently, Jeremy's Knesset Insider sidetracks all major Israel polls. So if anyone is interested, that would be where you would go. Yes, and Sherry, thank you. Hit the like, please, and thank you. Yes, hit the like and subscribe to Liberty Politics and subscribe to my channel. I don't have it open yet. I will soon. I'll open it soon, and I'll show you my channel, Monkey's channel, Ali's channel. Subscribe to all of them. That's in order. Okay. And so right now they passed the 4 seat. They just about got the 4 seats. But once you have other parties in the running for the unity ticket, they're not going to be able to pass 4 seats. There's no way they'll be able to pass 4 seats. And what's eventually going to happen is that these 3 unity movements are going to combine into one unity movement, because there's no way around it. And I do think that unity movement would have, I predict, around 8 seats. We'll see if we'll talk after the election, see if I got it right. And I think that unity movement would have to compromise among themselves, that the only compromise is to force a unity government. And so I think eventually that's what's going to happen, because there's no way either side has a majority without them. Okay, so good question by Shauna. I talked about this on the last stream. What defines left and right in Israel? Historically, in America, the divide was FDR's New Deal, which is what Democrats became when the Democrats became the left-wing party. DJ Petmar is saying, if Netanyahu loses power, he will go to prison. He probably won't. The trial is collapsing. He'll get a plea deal saying, okay, I quit politics and the trial is over. And they want it more than he does, because the trial is collapsing. The judges already told the prosecution that basically the bribery charge, which is the main charge, is not going to stick. Like they recommended that they strike it from the court, like from what they're trying to pin it on him. Okay, so back to Shauna's question. What defines left and right in Israel? Historically, in America, the divide was FDR's New Deal. Okay, so left and right in Israel used to be about the two-state solution up until October 7th. Now there's very few people who want the two-state solution broadly as a two-state solution. You have some less than a state solutions for Palestinians. You have the Emirates solution by Mordechai Kedar. You have a very much downgraded Palestinian Authority, which I'm against, because I don't think we can trust the Palestinian Authority. I think it's corrupt to the core and should be dismantled. But like that's basically what. And you have the actual left wing, which is these guys. That's the extent of their support. That actually are for the two-state solution. They're the only ones. Okay. And now we have issues like religion in public in public view, and things like and things like judicial reform and stuff like that, that are driving the wedge between left and right. Okay, so Amir is saying, gee, I wonder why the trial is collapsing. Fucking mafia. What Amir is hinting at is that that Netanyahu has sabotaged the trial or something along those lines. The judges in the Supreme Court saying to the prosecution, you don't have a bribery charge, has nothing to do with Netanyahu, unless you can find. Okay, and again, I wonder why there has been law that passed against the opinion of the Attorney General now, because she has prevented the government from doing its job for 4 years in ways that she's only supposed to. I'm talking about years of illegitimate actions. Like what? Oh yeah, the court is to blame. The court is not to blame. The only way the court is to blame is if you assume ahead of time that Netanyahu is guilty without looking at the evidence. Have you followed the trial? Have you actually looked at the transcripts of what's happening in the trial, or only when they say that the days of trial have been postponed? The court is not to blame for making a decision that you don't like, and that's true on both sides. Yeah. Okay. So American Jews, Sean is saying American Jews still support the two-state solution, but that's slowly collapsing over here as well. I personally like the Emirates idea, but it's not my call. Yeah, I used to be for the two-state solution, but much like the American Jews, my support for it has also eroded, and I now lean more towards the Emirates solution. I think it's the best for Palestinians as well. Really, now I need to learn to be a lawyer too to see a trial going wrong. Except we've had this discussion before, Amir, and you haven't been able to give me any specific thing beyond vibes that makes you say that a trial is that something what specifically wrong has gone with the trial that made the judges make the wrong decision according to you, because you know better than them apparently. Whether Netanyahu took a bribery or not? Like how can you say that the judges basically unanimously saying there's no bribery here, and they've said this years ago as well. And the prosecution said no, we're going to pin it on him in the defense proceeding, which anyone who knows anything about law knows is absurd because the defense proceeding is when the defense tries to strengthen their case. So it's I mean you need some reason to know that the trial is going wrong. You don't have to be a lawyer. You can follow the trial, by the way, without being a lawyer. It doesn't like it's easy to follow. Yeah, so that's the +1 for the Emirate solutions, aka the 9-state solution. Yeah, so basically the Emirate solution is stop the sorry. The Emirate solution is, and by the way, Amir, feel free to explain to me why do you think the judges said that there's no bribery? Other than, there's no bribery. Like actually logically, why the judges, the Supreme Court judges would make that decision? I'm willing to listen. Okay. So 9 states is because generally speaking, the the Palestinian population is inherently tribal. It's not actually one nation, and you can tell based on whether you have marriage between different tribes. So in Israel, someone who lives in Ashkelon can marry someone in Jerusalem. That's not a problem. That happens a lot. Like you find people from living in different places, you marry them. For Palestinians, they almost always marry within like their clan or their city. So they're not actually related to each other. They're different clans that happen to be a collective known as Palestinians. And so it makes way more sense. And in the Middle East, countries work when they're based on this clan allegiance. And so it makes more sense to create this clan allegiance for the Palestinians and not have the corrupt Palestinian Authority, which is a Western imposition on the Arabs in the West Bank and in Gaza. Well, not in Gaza, but in the West Bank, potentially in Gaza. It used to be in Gaza as well, which is corrupt beyond anything that anyone like. The level of corruption in the Palestinian Authority is insane. I won't get into it now, but just know that it's insane. And like it's much better if they have a clan that takes care of the clan because they care about the clan on a municipality level, be in charge of what happens to it. And also has less, ambitions to destroy Israel. So the sheikhs of or sheikhs is actually how you're supposed to pronounce that. Of Hebron have put out a paper in the Wall Street Journal saying basically we want to secede from the Palestinian Authority and be under Israel's umbrella. We're willing to recognize it as a Jewish democratic state. And we want our own autonomy. And that would be like perfect. That would be everyone except for the Palestinian Authority will be better off with this solution. Okay. All right. So hopefully that explains the recent backlash. And so today, if you look at Polymarket, Eisenkot now has. Oh, sorry. Okay, Eisenkot now has an above 50% chance of becoming prime minister, and that's new, as you can see. People are like right wingers, again, beyond what I expected, are actually really sick of the government kowtowing to the ultra orthodox and are willing to seek alternatives. And if Eisenkot plays his cards correctly, he could get some of their votes. Unfortunately, Netanyahu, Eisenkot has not played his cards correctly. So I'm going to play, and this is also this is going to be a lesson to my right wing Israeli followers. Many of you have probably seen this already, the Israelis, I mean. So Eisenkot, in an interview on Channel 13, made a very stupid statement, and I'll play it, and then I'll explain it. Hear it? Is the audio going through? No, it's not. Probably. Okay, so can you people hear? No sound. Okay, so I'll explain. Oh, actually, okay, I'll try sharing again. 1 second. No. Okay, now it should be fine. Okay. So he's asked about Mansour Abbas. Mansour Abbas is this person. He is the leader of essentially the leader of the party that was formerly associated with the Muslim Brotherhood in Israel. Now they've denounced them, or not denounced, but they've distanced themselves from them. That's Mansour Abbas. He's going to talk about Youssef Haddad as well. Youssef Haddad is the fiance of Emily Schrader. He is an Arab Israeli who's very pro-Zionist. Okay, and basically what he's going to say is, do you say that Mahmoud Abbas, sorry, not Mahmoud Abbas, Mansour Abbas. Mahmoud Abbas is the head of the PLO. Mansour Abbas, do you reject him from any government you would form? And essentially he's saying, much like Netanyahu is not, like the Likud would be happy to have Youssef Haddad on, like as a member of Knesset, then I don't in principle mind, or as a member of the government, I don't in principle mind Mahmoud Abbas. Mansour Abbas, God damn it. And that's a very stupid statement to make, because one of those people is pro-Israel and the other has been associated with the Muslim Brotherhood. And so equating them is essentially saying all Arabs are the same. And it doesn't matter if you're an Arab, if you like one Arab to be in the government, then why would you mind the other? Which is insane, because one of those people is Muslim Brotherhood and the other is very much pro-Israel. So that's what it looks like. I'll play it briefly, and then I'll explain why it's not quite as it appears. Someone told me that the context makes it better, and so I went and looked at the context, and the context did make it better.
פוסל אותו משותפות קואליציונית, את מנסור עבאס?
אני לא פוסל, כי הליכוד עם הציניות שלו הרי חותם היום על יוסף חדד כחבר כנסת, ופועל, הוא לא אומר, הוא ערבי, אני לא אשב איתו.
Okay, so I'm not saying that I'm not gonna sit with Mansour Abbas, because the Likud, in its cynicism, would happily sign today on, if you put a contract saying Yosef Haddad is a member of Knesset, an active member of Knesset, they'll say yes. And so the Likud doesn't say he's an Arab, I'm not going to sit with him.
ולכן זו שיטת נתניהו של הפרד ומשול, להגדיר היום
And this is Netanyahu's method of divide and conquer, to define now 20% of Israeli population as yeah, so that's like saying Thomas Sowell is the same as Whoopi Goldberg. It's basically racist. Yeah, basically. So this was a very awful statement that in context is just badly phrased. It's a fine statement that's badly phrased. Even though, like, I'll tell you the context, and then I'll let you decide.
להוציא מהמחנה 21% מאזרחי ישראל הערבים, אותם אלה שהוא רדף אחריהם.
Okay. And so that looks really bad. Basically, it looks like, well, they don't mind Thomas Sowell, so why can't I sit with Whoopi Goldberg? That's a good way of putting it. That's what it sounds like. However, in context, the question is as follows.
מה פוסל את מנסור עבאס, גם אם הוא מקבל את העקרונות שלך, גם מבין כולם הוא היחיד שאולי יכול לקבל את שלושת העקרונות שאמרת, הם מלהיות שותף פוטנציאלי. האם אתה לא מרצה כאן את דעת הקהל הגזענית בישראל, שאומרת, לא עושים פוליטיקה עם ערבים?
Okay. So that's the original question. I'll translate it. He said, let's talk about the Arabs. What do you say? So I'll go back a bit. What disqualifies Mansour Abbas, even if he accepts your principles, and he'll enumerate the principles in a second, from sitting in your government, and isn't disqualifying him ahead of time capitulating to the racist opinion that some Israelis have that Arabs shouldn't be in the government? And this interview, again, this is channel 13. This is the left-wing channel, and it's and it shows in the questions. And by the way, among all of the Arab parties, he's the only one who might be able to accept the three principles, and he'll mention the three principles in a second. Okay, so that's the context of the question. Aren't you satiating the racist public opinion in Israel of not sitting with any Arabs? And then he says, I don't want to disqualify anyone from being a partner. I will sit with anyone who accepts the three principles. I've never heard an Arab party that clearly accepts these three principles. And if that happens, then I'll respond accordingly. And then the part that was after the cutoff. Now, the three principles is Israel is a Jewish democratic state, I think. I thought he mentioned them. So military and or civil service for everyone, Jews, Arabs, regardless of denomination, and I don't remember the third one, but basically things that, like, guardrails that would prevent people who are bad from joining the government. And so in the context of the question, basically what he was saying, okay, once I'll quickly respond to Amir. There's a difference between delegitimizing the investigation and that attempt to delegitimize the investigation ending up being true because the judges also agreed that there was nothing there. My point is about the judges. Okay, so so what he's saying that is essentially, I'm not going to disqualify someone for being an Arab, and saying that the Likud in its cynicism, it's not the Likud is not being cynical. It's trying to attribute something wrong to the Likud. Like they're saying, oh, you shouldn't sit with the Arabs. Well, they're happy to sit with an Arab. So in principle, I don't mind sitting with the Arabs as long as they accept this framework. And as long as they accept this framework, does a lot of heavy lifting, because Yosef Haddad would happily accept the framework, but Mansour Abbas might not. So what he's saying is that, listen, you have a problem with me. And by the way, I'm not voting for this guy, most likely. Okay, so that's a good clarification. The question then: you could be an Arab and not be a part of any party, kind of like how not all Black Americans support the Black Caucus. Yes, very, very, very much so. You can have Arabs in any party. Yosef Haddad, if he runs, he'll probably run in like Likud, just based on his opinions. It's not a sectarian. It's sectarian because they made it sectarian. There are Arabs that, in principle, have ran in other parties, and some of them, there haven't been many, because of intra-Arab stigma against running with Zionist parties. Like that would be the reason, but not because, in principle, if they fit the right bill, again, like Yosef Haddad, that Zionist parties or Jewish parties, or would not, again, it's not Jewish parties because many of them have like non-Jew minorities. Likud has had several Druze members of Knesset, and most other parties have as well, or like Druze or other non-Jewish minorities. So it's not Jewish parties, but the mainstream parties, let's say. In principle, they wouldn't mind an Arab member of the party, as long as that they genuinely believe that person holds those values. And Yosef Haddad is a great example of someone who most Israelis really love and genuinely believe holds those values. Okay. So this is going around, like, look at how racist Eisenkot is and so on. It's not quite, he did misspeak, but in the context, he was talking about assuming you have an Arab who accepts the framework. If we assume that Mansour Abbas actually genuinely accepts the framework, then there's no reason to disqualify him, much like you wouldn't disqualify Yosef Haddad. So don't lecture me about that. That's just not Likud trying to cynically divide people. That's basically what he's saying. Guy, this is so helpful. Thank you so much. Okay, so now, if you like this content, you should subscribe to my channel. So a lot of the content I do is also going to be on liberty politics, but not all of it. And some of the deep dives and so on that I'll do at some point will be exclusive to my channel. And also just subscribe so that you can help me grow and get monetized and have more people get exposed to this. And I need to up my watch time and also my subscribers. Once I get to 1,000 subscribers, I can monetize, start making money off of you people. As a Jewish person, you know how important that is to me. And 1,000 subscribers plus, I think, 4,000 total hours of watch time. Okay. Now, not only me, but also follow Motorpool Grease Monkey, or not, because he's a dirty thief, but might as well. And also Ali Samani, who's now already at 2.6K subscribers, and we want to get him all the way up to 10K. That's the next stretch goal for Ali. Okay. So that's it for internal politics. Now, okay, good. So I am subscribed, did the notification bells. That's how I knew you were streaming. Yes, everyone also hit the notification bell when you subscribe so you can get notified when I go live. So, on to more depressing news with regards to before the depressing news, but foreign news in general. This is Foreign Minister Gideon Sal meeting tonight in Washington with the foreign ministers of Argentina, Paraguay, and Bolivia, all from recently appointed governments who are pro-Israel. And the what's happening in South America is really interesting because it's becoming from one of the most hostile places for Israel in the world to one of the most pro-Israel places in the world. In a large part, I think, thanks to Javier Milei breaking the socialist stronghold or chokehold over South America, and then like that having ripple effects for the rest of the continent. And now they're all appointing conservative and pro-Israel governments. Okay, so the next topic is Ro Khanna. He basically joined a Palestinian-led tour near Khirbet Zanuta in the southern West Bank, organized by Breaking the Silence, which is an Israeli anti-occupation group that also has a lot of foreign funding. And his convoy was temporarily blocked by armed Israeli civilians while Israeli security forces were called. I mean, that's okay. So this is the I'm reading that description. It's not quite accurate from what I've been able to tell. They tried to go into a closed off military zone, essentially tried to provoke, like a place that they know, at least not Ro Khanna knows, but Breaking the Silence and the people accompanying them know they cannot go to. And he basically Ro Khanna then described. So they were stopped there. And Ro Khanna described it as like an unprecedented, potentially deadly detention by violent settlers and IDF soldiers. And that American diplomatic intervention was required to save the delegation. However, then the footage came out and does not substantiate any of this. The worst thing that happened is that one of the people there, I think, kicked the tire of the car or something along those lines. And no one, like he said, rifles were pointed at him. That's not true. The soldiers were holding guns because they're soldiers and they hold guns. But like it was very civil. Like, listen, you can't be here. You can't be here. This is a closed off military area. It's dangerous here. And then he said, like, oh, the American diplomatic intervention was required to save the delegation. Mike Huckabee, U.S. ambassador to Israel, basically publicly rejected this presentation and said that the embassy has not been informed that he was making the trip and would have advised him not to enter the area without coordination because you're not allowed to. And also, apparently, Israel's ambassador in Washington similarly said that Ro Khanna had declined offers to coordinate his itinerary with Israeli officials or the U.S. embassy because then he wouldn't be able to do this provocation that will help him in the election. Okay. We're all right. So now Khanna does dispute this and saying that the delegation has been communicating with American diplomats. But it's not. It was after. If it happened, it happened after the confrontation has begun, and not ahead of time, like you're supposed to. Okay, so that's one. Does anyone have anything they'd like to say about that before I move on to Rahm Emanuel? So Rahm Emanuel, is these people play victim worse than footballers in the World Cup. Wait, I don't know if you're a troll talking about Israelis or about the Democrat people who go into restricted areas. If you're a troll, then boo. But if you're not, then yay. All right. Yeah, champagne socialist politicians. Yeah, okay, you're talking about Ro Khanna. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. So, by the way, people, I'm sorry, there's a bit of a delay. The chat appears later. Oh, I forgot. Oh no. Norman specifically told me to do this. I wanted to show the comments. Okay. So you can see like what I'm seeing and how long it takes for the comments to show up for me as well. So that was Ro Khanna. And now it's like the vogue thing to do for Democrats is to dunk on Israel, which is why, which is evident based on the fact that a majority of House Democrats have voted to stop military aid to Israel. Now, it's a small majority, but it was a majority nonetheless. And this shows of where the Democrat Party is at the moment. Obviously, this was proposed by Thomas Massie, who is against foreign intervention, but he, of course, has never received money from any foreign entity. No. And don't look it up, right? Just ignore or just forget about it. He's out of office anyway. Like, what does that matter? Yeah. So right now, that's where the Democratic Party is. And so Rami Manuel, who's ostensibly probably going to run for president, is trying to distance himself because his father was an underground fighter before Israel was formed for the creation of Israel. I don't know if he lived in Israel for a while. And so he has basically, just because of that, I don't think Democrats would vote for him at this point. Josh Shapiro has a much higher chance because he is like they won't let anyone that they can pin, oh, and he's an Israeli agent on to be president or to be their nominee. There's no way. I would be shocked if Rahm Emanuel ends up being the candidate. Oh, Shauna. Okay, Shauna switched channels to see all the comments. By the way, again, people, I would really appreciate it if you move on over to my channel and watch on my channel, because that's it gets my watch hours up, and then I'll be able to get monetized. Okay, so Rami Manuel came to Tel Aviv and made a statement in Tel Aviv University, essentially saying, "Your government is crazy. You have to stop. You're losing support," and basically putting back up essentially the Clinton framework. Although there were some updates to it, and I wouldn't necessarily. I don't think his suggestion is okay. Oh, right, I didn't post a link. Sorry. I'll post a link to my channel now. I only showed it. I didn't post it. It is in the description, though. By the way, my channel is always in the description of the video. Wait, I hope. Let's see. Yes, it is. Okay. So I just posted it, but it's also the channel link is always in the description. So basically, what he was saying is that we don't need a 2-state solution. We need a 23-state solution. Basically, the whole of the Arab world needs to be tasked, not just Israel, with finding a just solution for the Palestinians, which could be fine. You could also have some immigration as a result of that. That could work, depending on the details. I just don't trust Democrats right now in the current climate to be good to Palestinians. Okay, yes. Okay, so now, as Carter is saying, okay, so now I'm on your channel. Hello. So thank you, Carter. And essentially, he's trying to distance himself from the Israeli government. I don't think it's going to work. But that's the Democrats that are pro-Israel are not going to succeed in the current climate for the Democrat Party. The issue is that the current climate for the Democrat Party is also far from the American public. So I don't know how serious that is. However, so that's the Democrat side. Netanyahu, today canceled his trip to the States, or postponed it. We'll see. And ostensibly the reason is that he was going to go to Lindsey Graham's funeral, among other things, and that's postponed to the end of the month. But also, originally he was supposed to meet with Trump, and then an American official said, no, he's not meeting with Trump. I don't know where that came from. And then Israeli reports started saying, no, he's not. It's unclear whether he would meet with Trump. And then he canceled the trip. And based on what I've seen the last couple of days, I think that might have to do with clips. Trump is back to saying bad things about Israel that are also patently false, that his own, Secretary of War is saying is false. Essentially, probably because of pressure from Erdogan. And so let's watch this for a bit.
Ground forces withdraw from southern Lebanon.
Do you want to see Israeli ground forces withdraw from southern Lebanon? It got cut off a bit.
Well, redeploy is another word, because, we're getting along very well with Lebanon. Israel's dealing with them very nicely. First time in many, many years. Lebanon has just been beaten up so badly, and they've got Hezbollah there. Southern Syria and from parts of Lebanon, it would be good to get out, I think.
Okay, so get out of southern Syria and parts of Lebanon. The southern Syria issue is that Israel has taken over the rest of the Hermon mountain. I'll show you the map of Israel. Okay, so this is Israel, right? This is Egypt, this is Lebanon, this is Syria, and these are the Golan Heights. Trump is the only president that has acknowledged Israel's claim to the Golan Heights. And now Israel has, since this fall of Saddam, has gone like here. Something along those lines. They went, essentially, this is like, the mountain is part in Israel and part in Syria. And now, when Saddam fell, they just went for the whole mountain so that there wouldn't be higher parts in Syria that they'll be able to shoot at Israel from. So Starting Fresh is saying, President Trump, please stop doing that. Support Bibi. Listen to Marco, not Vance. Yes, we'll get to Vance in a bit. Okay, so Shauna's saying you can definitely do this. Okay, so I'm listening on Guy's channel on my phone and watching on Liberty Politics on my computer. Lol, I cracked the system. Feel free to do that. That way we get double the views. So we took over that part to avoid whatever came after Assad firing at us from here. So now we have like a security corridor here. Sorry, 1 second, I have to go. I'm sorry. One second. Okay, sorry, I'm back. And so Syria is basically a proxy of Turkey, and Syria is trying to push Israel back in the Golan Heights and try to get a foothold here, so that because Turkey is now trying to threaten Israel, and this would be a way to do this. Vance is gullible and a weak crowd pleaser. So I'll get to Vance in a second. Anyway, so that's the context of what Trump is saying here, and this suggests increasing Turkey influence on Trump.
Get out, I think, and I think you might see things get a little bit calmer because we have to focus our energy on the big leagues.
The getting things calmer is a Erdogan and Ashara line. Like, Israel is destabilizing the region, and this is how it's doing it. So this is basically saying line for line the things that Turkey and its proxies are saying,
And the big leagues,
or its proxy, singular in this case.
big leagues are Iran.
You mentioned when we spoke
And basically saying, we need to calm things down because we have bigger fish to fry, which is Iran.
on the phone during the war that Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara may be tasked with dealing with Hezbollah.
He would go in and take care of Hezbollah, and he'd do it in a different way. He wouldn't knock down buildings. I hated to see buildings knocked down.
Are you saying you believe he would be more precise than the Israelis?
I think he'd be more precise, yeah. I think, and I can tell you, I know he'd like to do it.
Does he need the green light from you?
I'm thinking about it.
You know who wouldn't like him doing this? Lebanon. Lebanon does not want ISIS taking care of the issue. They trust Israel much more. And the fact that he's saying this again, like he said, oh, he would love to do it. Sure, he would love to. Yeah, he would love to take over Lebanon. That would be nice for him. It would be nice for Lebanon. And he would not be more precise than Israel. And the fact that he's saying this, playing into the worst lies that he knows are lies, because Hegseth talked about these strikes and saying they were very accurate and very restrained and so on, is very troubling. Lebanon would prefer Israel than Syria. Yeah, exactly. Oh, okay. So Siddhartha is saying that he can't really hear. Were other people able to hear it? Because I don't know if it could just be your specific audio. Okay, so now moving on to Vance. So Shauna is saying, and I agree, Vance is not popular with the evangelicals or the Mormons. Plus, I personally think having a Hispanic would help bridge the Anglo-Latino divide. Rubio represents the rising multi-ethnic working class. I don't know about working class, but I think he represents MAGA better, the broad MAGA coalition better than Vance. And I say this, I mean, I'm not in America. I'm not an American. I've never been to America, even though my accent might suggest otherwise. I just picked it up from TV. But from the way I look at things and listening to several, like, to people in the know, Rubio is basically destroying his value. Okay, so some people can hear me, but not the video. Some people can hear both. So I can't do anything about that. So one might think it almost sounds like he tries to pressure the Lebanese government. So that was one interpretation before they signed the agreement, but now they already signed the agreement. Why would he need to pressure them again? I'm open to it. That's what I thought originally, but why would he need to pressure them again? Okay, so as most of you probably know at this point, Vance had a juicy interview with Joe Rogan. He talked about a lot of things, and some of it was, you could argue, pro-Israel. It wasn't pro-Israel. It was pro-America is not Israel's puppet. I haven't seen anything that's actually pro-Israel. Like, Netanyahu did not drag Trump into the war. It's not a pro-Israel comment. It's a pro-Trump comment. It's good that he's debunking it, but he's not doing this because of a love of Israel. Okay, so let me play the clip, and this is the part that's very naughty. Okay, and we'll talk about it in a second.
To try to derail the negotiation and try to derail the deal, and there's this, but I definitely think you have seen this very discreet, extremely well-funded campaign to try to derail the negotiation and try to derail the deal. And, there's this Time article that came out yesterday. A friend sent it to me. It's like worth reading because it lists a bunch of people who have quite literally been paid by a former Trump campaign person who was himself paid by certain elements within the Israeli government. And those people are attacking me viciously for quite literally trying to accomplish.
Okay, so I'm not. There might be like a copyright thing. I'm not sure, so I'll stop here. I'll move a bit forward. Basically, he's talking about an article that came out in Time magazine that claimed that people in the Israeli government have paid a certain person who's in, I mean, this person is paid by the Israeli government to to improve its situation in America. Like he's like a coordinator or something. And basically, and what's being alleged is that Israel coordinated a campaign for people to smear him and the MOU. Here's the problem with that. First of all, it doesn't offer any evidence. Essentially, what happened was that some U.S. official, and I'll let you think who that might be, saw a bunch of messages against the MOU. They were all using similar talking points, and came to the conclusion that, oh, this seems coordinated, and just said, that's basically the evidence. That's the extent of the evidence. There's no paper trail. There's no one has claimed that any of this is true, and all the people claimed it's false. Now, they would claim it's false even if it's true, but there's no reason to think that it's true other than this U.S. official that leaked this information to Time Magazine said so. To me, this sounds like Vance. Yeah, I agree. So Vance isn't stupid. He's desperate. I agree. Okay, DJ, you have to be more coherent. You make like one-liners, and I see them a few seconds after I'm done talking. So like you think you're responding to something I said, and I would immediately be able to understand what it is that you're saying, but I can't. So if you want to make a coherent point, just make a full comment, and I'll respond to that. So the reason I think he isn't stupid, he's desperate, is that the MOU was a disaster from the moment it came to be. And a lot of people talked about it, not because of a coordinated campaign, because there were problems with the MOU, very, very serious problems. A lot of Republicans came out against it because they thought it was a capitulation to the Islamic Republic. And Vance saw this, and this is a way to deflect the criticism. And by the way, that coordinated campaign and these talking points also happen to align with what actually happened, because the MOU failed. Or did Israel also bribe Iran to make it not follow the MOU? Like this was just a bad point by Vance. By the way, JD Vance, like I liked him before the election, but then a lot of the things he said just don't come true, and he fundamentally seems to not understand what's happening, like the way geopolitics works. He said that the reason he wants to stop supporting Ukraine is that Ukraine has no way of winning. Well, guess what? Ukraine is winning. Ukraine is winning big time. Like the Russian Federation will collapse, and Putin will be assassinated by Russians before Ukraine loses the war. That's how bigly Ukraine is winning. Yeah, Vance doesn't want to take the blame for a crap MOU. Vance is willing. So people said that secretly, in his heart of hearts, Vance actually is pro-Israel. But Vance, as Susie Wiles allegedly said, based on her interviews with The Independent, is a politician, first and foremost. And I think that he thinks that this is where public sentiment is in America. But from what I'm able to gather, that's the public sentiment online. Now, again, I'm not American. I can only see things from the online sphere. But I think he might be in a bit of an epistemic bubble, and he sees a certain loud voice in online discourse, and thinks that this is his way to get to the presidency, to neg Israel and to talk bad about Israel. This coordinated campaign, there's absolutely no evidence that exists. If there is, post it, or say that like what leads you to think that this person coordinated a campaign against the MOU. The MOU just sucked. And Vance is trying to distance himself from the fact that the MOU sucked. And right now he's MAGA is many things. And the reason I said that I don't think Vance is a good representative of MAGA is that he's a good representative of a certain subset of MAGA that used to be to not have a voice in American politics. But a lot of the people in the Republican base, in the MAGA base, like there's a circle that needs to be squared. That Charlie Kirk did this together. He created the MAGA coalition, as far as I can tell. And you need to be able to square that circle. And if Vance is going and Vance seems to be going far too hard on one side, whereas Rubio is doing a much better job. He's not coming out as pro-Israel or pro-war or pro anything like that, but he's not throwing Israel under the bus for things that he knows are false. And he's less angry. He's way more able to understand the needs of the Republican base as it is right now with the working class, more than he did probably in 2016. He actually went through a lot of changes over the years, from what I'm able to tell, to become more aligned with MAGA without losing the rest of the Republican base. And so I think this is just a miscalculation by Vance. I think this is a millennial politician that is terminally online and is misreading public sentiment. Now, I could be wrong. Again, I'm not American. We'll find out. And in fact, most likely I'm wrong because I'm not American. But this is my read on things. So counter, I think it's all deception. It's all show, especially with Vance. Vance is the people pleaser. That's why Trump hired him. He's all smoke and mirrors. I agree. I mean, I don't think this is a counter. This is what I'm saying. I don't think that he necessarily believes this. I don't think him as a president would be as bad as it appears from his public statements. I think his public statements serve to put him as the candidate of a certain subset of the electorate that I think is smaller than he thinks it is because he's very much online. I see a lot more. I'll put it this way. Vance might have more popularity for certain Republican voters, but he also has a lot more pushback. A lot more pushback. I have not seen that pushback to Rubio. I've never seen anyone say, "Oh, Rubio's not my guy." I've seen people say Vance is great. Usually they say Vance Rubio 2028. That's usually what those people say. I've seen a lot of people say, "Dear God, I hope Vance is not elected or is not the Republican nominee." First of all, if he's the Republican nominee, there's a stronger chance that you'll have a Democrat president. Second of all, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Second of all, Rubio is just a better representative of a lot of positions that people can unite around. Within the Republican coalition. That's my position. I'm not American, but that's the way I see things. I think he's just fundamentally I think he's just showing that he's not as competent of a politician as I thought he was originally. Okay, yeah, so Sean is saying Rubio has evolved. The other issues that both Vance and the socialists have is that Trump policies are rising the working class. It's just not going to be obvious until the end of 2027. Yeah, and especially if Israel signs the new MOU, which is to say the disembarking MOU, there's going to lose, like, the anti-Israel crowd is going to lose a lot of steam, and that's most likely going to happen. Vance isn't evil. I never said he's evil. Maybe someone in the chat did. I don't think he's evil. I think he's a politician, and I think he's playing his hands wrong. That's what I think. And I think he actually, my interpretation, it's also charitable to Vance that his quote unquote anti-Israel stance, he's very much not as anti-Israel as he lets himself appear. And also, it's about finding an outlet for these kinds of people, so that you have someone who's more or less like he's also friends with Eric Weinstein, for example, who's very pro-Israel, and Peter Thiel, and again, very, very pro-Israel. The I think he put out the goal of like is maybe like being controlled opposition for Republicans. Again, I don't know anything. I'm Israeli. I'm not that familiar with American politics. I mean, I try to be. I'm informed, but I'm not inside, so I can't give you like the feeling on the ground. But this is the feeling I get. There's a plausible chance that Vance has controlled opposition in the sense of trying to. So you have Trump, and then you have the rest of the MAGA coalition. And so you have like Marco Rubio being a better representative of one half of it, and Vance being a better representative of another half of it, or not half, another portion. I do think Rubio's portion is bigger at this point. But then you have they're both going to run, and they both generally agree on most things. Some slight differences. Now, again, I think that foreign policy differences are huge, and I think Rubio is just leagues better than Vance. But putting that aside, on a lot of things, they would like more or less agree. And so you're going to have people choose between this version of the same thing and that version of the same thing. And I think that might be what they're going for. All right. Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking as well. Vance is not really popular within any segment. No, I think he's popular with the people who are not that interested because he has like name recognition. Or like not that involved, but I don't think it's going to last once the debates start. He has like I think he has surface level popularity, and he's charismatic. I think that's what he has going for him. He's quoting the America First Catholic Integralist Groyper movement. I agree, but probably only the integralists are really enamored with him. The issue with the Groyper movement, like the Groyper movement, really hates him. I think the Groyper movement would vote for Rubio before they vote for him, but they'd probably vote for Newsom before they vote for Rubio. Which I have a lot to say about the Groyper movement. I think, again, I have a lot of sympathy for the American youth because they've been fucked 5 ways from Sunday by people who don't have their best interest at heart, and then those people told them that the reason they're fucked 5 ways to Sunday is Israel. So to shift the blame away. But yeah, but the Groypers are not going for Vance because he has an Indian wife. Okay, so E is saying Vance or Rubio depends on how Trump's term goes. I only see Vance as president if there's major worldwide peace and an easy Republican win. I think you're saying similar things, guy. As president, I'm talking about who. So I think if Iran goes well before we start thinking about the replacement for Trump, goes well as in we have more kinetic operations and the regime falls. I think Vance is going to lose a lot of steam. He's going to be the guy who made the wrong choices along the way, and Rubio is going to appear as the guy who essentially liberated several countries with very minimal army intervention. Okay. Yes, that's sort of how I see it. Not necessarily 2016. I do think he's running on. No, it's not how I see it. Actually, I disagree. I don't think he's running on 2016 identity politics. I think he's running on 2026 identity politics, but he is running on identity politics. And he's running on something that's essentially an online phenomenon. I think he's making the mistakes that the Democrats have made, where you have a bubble that you think is representative of the majority of the people, and it's just not. And you can't just look online to find what people are thinking. If that was true, then a lot of the parties you see the most activity for online in Israel, for example, like never came close to sniffing the threshold of 4 seats. That would be Feiglin, the Zehut party, and that would be Yaron Zalicha's economic party. They have a lot of very noisy, active people online that are for them, but it's like it's not something you can use as a proper gauge. And I think Vance is making that mistake. Okay. Let's see. By the way, people, feel free to send super chats. I will read all super chats, even though I'm not Armin. I do have that capability. Okay, so I would be interested in hearing vote for Vance. Oh, vote for Vance versus the Democrats. I would probably too. I mean, it really depends who the Democrat is. If it's Vance versus Josh Shapiro, I might lean Josh Shapiro. But basically, anyone else on the Democrat ticket, I would also go for Vance. Let's see. Okay, I'll probably end the stream soon. Okay, so Sean is saying I don't think Vance is controlled opposition. I think he's actual opposition, but he's not a skilled politician. Too many minorities don't like him, both religious and ethnic. For me that would be a good thing. Because I very much think Rubio is one of the greatest, most competent politicians I've seen in my lifetime in general. Like it's insane how good he is. Both on the media front and also like knowing everything about anything he's dealing with. And being able to say things like they are without alienating people and like framing things in a way that you basically agree. Like the fact that he was able to get Europe to applaud him saying, dude, you all suck, you lost your way. Like you compare that to what Vance did the year prior, it's a masterclass. Rubio is one of the best politicians I've ever seen in any context. He's better than all politicians I know from Israel, in my mind. If Rubio was running in Israel, I'd vote for him. And again, not necessarily because he's pro-Israel, just because he's just a really, really competent person. Okay, Sketch. If that is your real name, I know who you are behind that helmet, monkey. Vance is better on domestic policy, terrible on international policy. If POTUS says go make a deal, he can't say no, I still don't like him. I'm not sure. There was punctuation missing at the end there, so I'm not sure what you said. What I think people forget about Trump was that his online charisma was only part of it. Trump was a name brand for decades before that. Yes, and it really wasn't the online thing, I think. It was the events. And he kept going out and actually seeing what people in real life are saying and adjusted his message accordingly from like place to place. I think that was his secret. The rallies he did, I think that was the thing that pushed him over the edge. Vance appealing to leftists, and then Rubio raging war on far leftists. Def feel like they are against each other. Okay, more than realized. I think they have. They're going for different electorates. I just think that Rubio is more competent at that as well, of skirting a line. Again, if Vance is not controlled opposition. So it's settled. Rubio 2028. I agree. I mean, I really hope Rubio gets it. I really, really hope Rubio gets it. Okay. And one last thing. Vance talked about foreign influence. This is the Prime Minister of Qatar, basically telling him what to write in the MOU. Okay, so good question by Siddhartha. And by the way, again, people send super chats to Armin. I'll be reading the super chats. Guy, before you close out, what is your gauge on Israel's regional diplomatic standing? It's a good question. Depends what you mean by regional. And also depends on what happens in the upcoming election. I think Israel is in a great place secretly. I think the current government is an impediment to arrangements with other parties, specifically Smotrich and Ben-Gvir. Maybe Netanyahu. The standing of Israel is good. The standing of the government is not. The only issue would be Turkey, especially if the war in Iran goes as we all wish it would. Israel would be in a fantastic spot at that point. And then once Netanyahu is out of power, you know how in the Bible you had David, who was in charge of like conquering major parts of Israel, but then he wasn't allowed to build a temple because he was like the wartime king. And then Solomon built the temple. That's sort of, I think, what we have going on right now. Netanyahu is laying the groundwork for Israel's upcoming prosperity, but I don't think he'll be able to be the one who signs the agreements. Okay. Sean is saying Rubio balances the different poles incredibly well. Balancing international, national, the religious, secular, the capitalist, social, safety net, incredible. Yeah, I agree. It's I like he's so good. I'm literally at awe from Marco Rubio. And again, not because he's pro-Israel, just because I've never seen someone be this good of a politician. And like in the positive sense of the word. Like he is so good at advancing what he thinks is a good vision for the world, and also seems to be right because, again, Vance's predictions for what would happen if you do certain things just ended up not coming true on the world stage. So he has a good thing he's advocating for. He does a good job of coalescing people around his message. Like when he talks, you can't help but agree most of the time. He makes a lot of sense. All right. Anyway, so we have a super chat. Thank you, Father of Chaos. Can we just have zero tolerance for Jew blaming of any kind until this conflict is resolved? Remember, Israel did nothing to deserve this. No, we can't have zero tolerance for Jew blaming because this is the currency of the moment. This is the thing that's in vogue, and this is the thing that gets you subscribers and likes and people following you. And that's why people with no spine, like Megyn Kelly, have flipped, or people with an inverse spine, like Tucker Carlson. An inverse spine is like, I think he wants something fundamental about American liberties to change. I think he's like a Russian asset. And I thought this for a while, even before he turned on Israel, because of the propaganda trips he made to Russia. That makes the most sense to me, and like I see a lot of Russian figureheads like Alexander Dugin making the kind of statements that he would. So actually, the hopefully impending fall of Putin's version of Russia is something I look forward to, because a lot of the like if Russia and Iran fall, a lot of the foreign influence on America to be anti-Israel will fall with it. Not all of it, because you still have Qatar and Turkey, but a lot of it. And then you'll probably have, at least on Iran's side, a counterbalance. Okay. All right. So I'm about to head out. We basically talked about everything that I had planned for today. I have some extra stuff, but I think it's a good place to stop. I don't want to go like right up until Armin and Monkey go. Want to give people time to breathe. So, a few quick plugs. One, if you're interested, if anyone here is interested in also in learning Hebrew and not just hearing about Israel, I have an online course called Heblio. Link is in the description for the website. I think it's really good. I also think it's really good because I made it. But the reason I made it is because there wasn't a good platform out there. And so like it's way cheaper than any other solution. If anyone has thought of learning Hebrew, Heblio is absolutely the way to do it. It gives you a great foundation to, and also tells you what to do next to reach fluency. And also subscribe to my channel. Now, this time also putting it in the chat. And also Grease Monkey, aka Sketch, allegedly. And also Ali. So subscribe to all of our channels. Oh, okay. So Shauna is asking, is it a video course? I couldn't do it now, but something in September to do perhaps. Yeah, it's self-paced. It's pre-recorded. That's why I can make it cheaper than usually an ulpan would cost like $1,000 a semester. But because it's pre-recorded, it is based on materials that I developed over the years based on my experience, both learning languages myself, teaching Hebrew, like tutoring Hebrew and seeing what works. And I'm getting my master's in cognitive science, so I know the science of learning. And I developed the material specifically to be very sticky and very easy to grasp, to make the process easier and flow better. And so it's a pre-recorded video course with vocabulary and exercises and so on, and recordings of how to pronounce things. But because it's pre-recorded, I can make it much cheaper than it would otherwise be. And it's now 50% off. At the moment, I'm going to probably raise the price in like a month. But for now, it's 50% off. So it's like $150. So yeah, you can do it at your own time. There's a suggested pace if you need deadlines for yourself to do it in like 15 weeks to become comfortable with Hebrew in 15 weeks. But you can also do it faster. You can do it slower. So it's really flexible. So quickly, I'll put it in the chat so that people can go look at it if they want. Okay, awesome. Then I can practice online with my Hebrew friends. Yes, myself included. Awesome. Great. So yeah, I thought I mentioned it in brief in the last stream, and then people are actually interested and I got some responses for it. And so I figured I'd bring it up. Like it might be relevant for the community. All right, everyone. So this has been me, and these have also been you, and together these have been us. So I'll see you guys next time. Probably maybe Sunday. If not, I have a group discussion. Yeah, that's another thing. As you can see, there's a QR code for going to the group discussion. I have a group discussion on Monday. I might record it or live stream it. I might not. But this would be an excellent opportunity to ask me questions and do deep dives. Usually there aren't There's like a few people there, like 10. So you'll have time and you'll be able to say anything you want and speak about anything you want. Ask me about anything you want about Israeli politics, geopolitics in general, philosophy. Why I'm not a materialist, if you're interested, and why I believe in free will, and stuff about like how to know whether you know, or what's called epistemology. What's the best approach to knowledge? If you have like questions about strategies to make sure that you're not wrong or less wrong than you, or like minimize your wrongness, have a bunch of stuff to offer there as well. So if you come on Monday, you can ask me all about that, because I'm not going to make a stream about it here because it's a bit of a different topic. Okay, I'll read the last comments. Or you're not a materialist? Ooh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm not a materialist. I'm closer to an idealist, but it's not quite accurate. My position is roughly the one held by Ian McGilchrist. So who's an excellent intellectual. I highly recommend Ian McGilchrist, IAIN, and then McGilchrist. I'll probably upload. I'm still trying to find a way to efficiently translate it. I did a lecture a little while ago about he's a brain scientist, has a theory about the differences between the hemispheres, the left hemisphere and right hemisphere, that I subscribe to, that and also has a lot of interesting things to say philosophically and about like Western culture and stuff. So highly recommend for those who don't know him to follow him. I'm putting it in the chat now. Ian McGilchrist. You can see it here. Here, Ian McGilchrist. That's how you spell it. Okay, good. So I will see you now. So I'll see you again next week. Again, either Sunday or Monday in the discussion group. Join my camera is mirrored. Join the discussion group, and I'll see you there.